Most men freeze. That's the truth. When they see a beautiful woman walk into the room, their body tenses, their throat goes dry, and every bold idea they had a second ago turns into self-doubt. And it's not because they don't want her. It's because they're trapped in their mind, overthinking, creating outcomes that don't exist yet. And by the time they decide to move, it's too late. She's already gone, physically or mentally. But here's what the men who win do differently. They approach anyway. They walk through the fear. And they don't just walk up like robots. They do it with confidence, control, and an understanding of how attraction actually works. Not the fairy tale version, the real one. The one based on psychology, human dynamics, and primal triggers. You see, seduction doesn't start with the approach. It starts before that, long before. The way you carry yourself, the energy you bring into a room, how grounded you are in your masculinity. Neil Strauss called this inner game. Without it, outer techniques are just empty tricks. But when you walk into an interaction already knowing your value, already believing you're the prize, that's when the game changes. And no, you don't need to be the best-looking guy in the room. You don't need a six-pack or a luxury watch. You just need to understand one simple fact. Most women are not approached by men who know what they're doing. They're approached by men who stutter, who try to impress, or who fall into the dreaded nice guy frame. Needy, approval-seeking, weak. That's your advantage. If you learn how to approach with intention and masculine calm, you stand out instantly. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I watched a guy in a cafe spend over 30 minutes glancing at a woman sitting by the window. She was gorgeous. Every guy noticed her. He kept building up the courage, sipping his coffee, looking down at his phone, adjusting his shirt, rehearsing lines in his head. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he walked over. His opening line? "Sorry to bother you, but..." The moment those words left his mouth, the energy shifted. Her guard went up. She smiled politely, but the spark was gone. Why? Because he approached from fear, from apology, from inferiority. Compare that to another guy. He walks in, sees the same woman, makes brief eye contact, smiles, and goes about his business. 10 minutes later, he casually walks by, leans in slightly, and says something completely nonchalant. Not needy, not creepy. Something like, "You look like you're plotting world domination over that latte." She laughs. Just like that, the door is open. Here's the kicker. It's not about the line. It never is. It's about the frame, your emotional state when you approach. Are you seeking validation, or are you offering a moment of connection? That difference is everything. Fear doesn't vanish on its own. You have to train it out of your system. That's why seduction isn't just about women. It's about developing yourself into the kind of man who doesn't flinch when life puts him in front of a challenge. Whether it's a woman, a deal, or a decision, you handle it like a grounded man. If you want a woman to feel safe with you, drawn to you, curious about you, you have to project certainty, not arrogance. Certainty. A man who's comfortable in his skin, who's not performing, who's not trying to impress her with memorized routines, but who's genuinely curious about her and knows how to lead. Mystery, one of the greatest seducers ever studied, used to say, "Attraction isn't a choice." What he meant is that when you trigger the right psychological buttons, a woman can't help but feel drawn in. But before you can trigger anything in her, you have to handle the war inside your own head. Fear of rejection is a myth. What you're really afraid of is ego death. The idea that she might say no, and that no will confirm your deepest insecurity, that you're not enough. But let me tell you, you are. You just haven't given yourself permission to own it yet. Think of it like this. If she says no, she's not rejecting you. She's rejecting the version of you she saw in that moment. And if that version was nervous, awkward, or apologetic, can you blame her? But if you walk up calm, playful, and certain, now she's intrigued. Even if she's not available, she respects you. And that respect plants a seed. Sometimes that seed turns into interest minutes later, sometimes hours. Sometimes it never does. But you left an impression, and you didn't fold. That's what separates men who get women from those who chase endlessly. They don't hinge their self-worth on the outcome of an approach. They know every interaction is just another rep, another chance to sharpen the blade. And here's something most guys don't realize. Women are often waiting to be approached, but not just by any guy, by the right guy, the one who gets it, the one who knows how to enter her world without forcing himself into it. So next time you see her, pause. Take a breath. Don't rush. Don't fidget. Look at her. Not like a predator, but like a man who sees something beautiful and is unafraid to engage it. Then move, speak, smile, say something real, something simple. You don't need to be clever. You need to be present. That presence, that's the most seductive thing you can bring into any interaction. Most guys think the key is saying the perfect thing. They imagine there's some magic line, some exact phrase that will unlock a woman's interest. But that mindset is exactly what keeps them stuck. Seduction isn't a script, it's an energy. And when your energy is rooted in need, when you're hoping she gives you permission to feel confident, you've already lost frame. What women respond to isn't the words, it's the man behind the words. She's reading you the second you approach. How relaxed are you? Do you look like you're trying too hard? Are you overcompensating, or are you genuinely grounded in who you are? One of the greatest shifts a man can make is to stop thinking about getting something from the interaction. The mindset shouldn't be, I hope she likes me. It should be, I'm here to explore who this woman is and see if she fits into my world. That subtle shift changes everything. You go from being a boy trying to win approval to a man who invites a woman into his presence. Now let's go deeper. Most fear around approaching comes from imagined futures. You're not reacting to reality. You're reacting to a projection of what might happen. You think she'll laugh or reject you, or that people around will judge you. But none of that is real until you move. And most of the time, those imagined fears never happen. What does happen is this. She senses your hesitation, and that hesitation becomes her reason to shut down. You don't need to erase all fear before you approach. You just need to stop obeying it. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting in spite of it. And that's what builds the muscle. Every approach, every conversation, it rewires your nervous system. It tells your brain, I can survive this. I can lead. Let me share something Neil Strauss wrote in The Game. He said, the greatest barrier to success is the fear of failure. That applies directly here. Most men don't fail with women because they're unattractive. They fail because they never take the shot. They hesitate, they stall, they run from the discomfort instead of leaning into it. And here's the wild part. Even if you screw up the first few seconds, if your energy is right, she'll often give you a second chance. Why? Because what women really want is to feel something: excitement, curiosity, connection. If you can offer that, even in a raw, unpolished form, you're already ahead of 90% of men. You don't need perfection. You need presence. You need to look her in the eye without flinching. You need to speak like you've got nothing to hide and nothing to prove. And you do that by working on yourself before you step up. You train your mind. You get clear on your values. You practice being socially sharp in all situations, not just when a beautiful woman is involved. Because here's the truth most guys avoid. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your preparation. If you wait until the pressure is on to try and be charming, you'll collapse. But if you've made boldness a habit, if you've trained your social muscle, you'll slide into that moment like it's second nature. That's why real seduction starts way before the approach. It starts with the way you treat people throughout your day. Are you engaging strangers with confidence? Are you practicing eye contact? Are you flirting with life? Or are you hiding in routine? The guy who walks into a room and owns it didn't get that way by accident. He got there through deliberate action, through deciding that playing it safe wasn't enough. That living numb was more painful than risking rejection. That man chooses discomfort until it becomes comfort. And you know what happens next? Women notice. They feel that shift. They may not even know what it is at first, but they feel pulled in. There's something about the way you move, the way you speak, the way you laugh. It doesn't scream, pick me. It says, I've already picked myself. And that's magnetic. She wants to feel that she's in the presence of a man who has options, but isn't desperate. A man who knows how to lead but doesn't need to control. A man who approaches her not to fill a void but to share his already full life. When that's your frame, every approach becomes easier. Because you're not gambling your self-worth. You're just offering your energy. And if she's not open to it, you walk. No bitterness, no weirdness. You move on like the man you are, unchanged, undisturbed. That level of calm is what makes her curious. That calm is what triggers the chase. Because in a world full of boys trying to impress, a man who doesn't try is rare. And rare is irresistible. Most guys don't realize that the way they think about women is already shaping the result of every interaction, before a single word is spoken. If you're approaching her from a place of scarcity, she'll feel it. If you believe deep down that women like her are out of your league, your body language, your tonality, your micro-expressions, they'll all betray you. You can't fake certainty. You can't fake value. It has to come from the inside out. That's why inner game is not some abstract self-help concept. It's the foundation. When you approach a woman, she's not just responding to what you say. She's scanning you for clues. Is this man used to being around women like me? Is he grounded or reactive? Is he trying to prove himself, or does he already know who he is? If you've done the work, you don't need to impress her. You express yourself. And that's a whole different energy. Instead of bending yourself to fit what you think she wants, you reveal what you want. And you make space for her to enter that reality, if she's aligned. You've probably heard guys say, just be confident. But let's break that down. Confidence isn't an act, it's the side effect of competence. You build it through action, through experience, through surviving rejection and realizing it doesn't destroy you, through taking risks and learning that your world doesn't fall apart when someone says no. Think about this. Every man she's met who was truly seductive had one thing in common. He wasn't attached to the outcome. He didn't approach needing something from her. He approached because he wanted to, because he was curious, because he was present in his body and connected to the moment. And she can feel that. Women are biologically wired to pick up on emotional cues. It's not even conscious most of the time. But when she senses that your nervous system is relaxed, that you're not trying to manipulate or push, she lets her guard down. Now, if your nervous system is all over the place, if your voice shakes, your body fidgets, your eyes dart, she may not understand why, but she'll feel off. Her instincts will tell her something isn't right. That's not because you're a bad guy. It's because you're not present. You're not fully there. You're performing, and she feels it. Presence is rare. In a world of endless distractions, a man who can hold eye contact and stay grounded is intoxicating. Because presence equals power. It tells her, I'm not running from anything. I'm here, with you, right now. Let me say something that most men never hear. You don't have to chase women to be seductive. In fact, the more you chase, the less magnetic you become. Why? Because chasing implies lack. It screams, I need you to validate me. But when you move through the world like a man who chooses, who selects, who invites rather than begs, women notice. They notice because that's rare. And what's rare is always valuable. This doesn't mean you never initiate. Initiation is masculine. Leadership is attractive. But initiation from a place of wholeness, that's what separates you from the crowd. It means you approach because you desire, not because you lack. So what does this look like practically? It means when you see her and your instinct says go talk to her, you don't delay. You don't debate with your mind. You trust your impulse and you act. You walk up, you smile, and you speak. And not from a place of needing to be liked, but from a place of already being complete. It might be a question. It might be an observation. It might be a playful tease. It doesn't matter. What matters is your intent. Are you giving or are you taking? Are you sharing your energy or trying to steal hers? The man who shares, he stands out. She remembers him, even if the conversation is short, even if it leads nowhere. Because the interaction wasn't forgettable, it was real. Most women are bombarded with shallow attention, guys staring, swiping, sending bland messages or forced compliments. But a man who walks up in person, owns the moment, and speaks from the gut, that man becomes an exception to her routine. He becomes the story she tells her friends later. She might not fall into your arms right away. She might be cautious. She might test you. That's natural. But if your frame doesn't break, if you don't flinch or chase or overcompensate, she starts to lean in. Not because you forced her, but because you gave her something rare, a taste of real masculine presence. That's why it's not about the outcome of this one interaction. It's about the standard you bring to every interaction. When you stop trying to impress and start embodying who you truly are, you become more than just another guy. You become a force. Now let's flip the perspective. Think for a moment about what it's like to be her. A beautiful woman gets approached often, yes, but rarely well. Most guys come at her with expectations, with pressure, with energy that feels either too aggressive or too unsure. She's not rejecting them because she doesn't want connection. She's rejecting the experience those men bring. What she craves, but won't say out loud, is a man who doesn't collapse in her presence, A man who treats her like a woman, not a goddess. A man who brings curiosity, not need. Who listens, but doesn't supplicate. Who speaks with clarity, not performance. And that man? He's the one who understands that seduction starts with self-possession. There's a calmness that comes from knowing you're enough, from not needing to prove anything, from having a rich, full life and letting her feel that she's entering your world, not that you're begging to enter hers. Women are drawn to that energy because it signals emotional security, and in a world of emotional chaos, that kind of man is rare. But you can't fake it. You can't memorize a few lines, rehearse a few body language tricks, and expect lasting results. Women see through that. They feel through that. That's why real seduction is never about the surface. It's about alignment between what you say, how you say it, and what your body is communicating without words. If your mouth says, "Hey, I thought you looked interesting," but your posture is closed, your breath is shallow, and your eyes are darting around like you're seeking approval, the words lose power. But if you say the exact same thing with grounded posture, relaxed shoulders, and a slow, steady voice, now the message lands. Because now she's not just hearing words, she's feeling you. And that's what she really wants, to feel you. Not the guy you think you're supposed to be, not the character you built to protect yourself, but the raw, unapologetic masculine energy that you've probably been taught to hide your whole life. Seduction is not about being someone else, it's about peeling back everything that's not you. It's about removing the layers of fear, doubt, guilt, shame, and stepping into who you really are. That version of you? That version doesn't chase. He attracts. Now, that doesn't mean he never takes action. Quite the opposite. The masculine leads. But the way he leads is different. It's not rushed. It's not desperate. It's deliberate. Slow is smooth. Smooth is seductive. So when he walks up to a woman, he's not charging at her. He's inviting her into a dance. And he's completely okay if she says no. You want to know the paradox? When you no longer need a yes, you get it more often. Because she senses that freedom in you, that lightness, that non-attachment, and suddenly you're no longer a threat. You're not trying to take. You're not trying to impress. You're just there, offering presence, offering connection, offering experience. And that's what makes the approach effortless. When it comes from overflow, not emptiness. Think about this. How do you act when you're with people you're totally comfortable with? Maybe your best friend, your brother, someone who truly sees you. You're relaxed, you're witty, you're playful. That's your natural state. That's your core. The only reason you don't bring that version of yourself when you approach a woman is fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being rejected, fear of not being enough. But here's the truth. The version of you that's trying to avoid rejection is already rejected. He's not even real, he's a mask, a defense. And women don't fall for masks, they fall for men. So drop the mask. Be willing to be seen. Be willing to risk. Because the greater the risk, the greater the reward. And nothing is more attractive than a man who is emotionally exposed and completely unshaken. Let me tell you something that will serve you for the rest of your life. The quality of your interactions with women is directly tied to the quality of your relationship with yourself. If you don't respect yourself, you'll tolerate disrespect. If you don't trust yourself, you'll overthink every move. If you don't like yourself, you'll keep chasing people who barely like you back. That's why real seduction starts long before she enters the picture. It begins with how you talk to yourself, with the standards you hold, with the way you move through the world when no one's watching, and when you carry that energy into an approach, it's undeniable. She may not even understand why she's pulled in, but she is. She feels your presence. She feels your calm. She feels your edge. And that feeling? That's what makes her lean in. That's what makes her curious. That's what makes her wonder, who is this guy? And that's the truth most men never learn. Seduction isn't something you do. It's who you become. The real game isn't about chasing women. It's about chasing your potential. Because when you step into your full masculine power, when you walk into a room already knowing your worth, everything changes. You don't need tricks. You don't need approval. You are the experience. The moment you stop seeking permission to approach, the moment you start owning your presence, trusting your instincts, and acting with boldness, that's the moment you stop being invisible and start becoming unforgettable. Because women don't fall for perfection. They fall for authenticity, for strength that's not loud but undeniable, for a man who doesn't fold under pressure, who leads with quiet intensity, who knows exactly what he wants and moves toward it without apology. If you've made it this far, I already know something about you. You're not here to stay average. You're here to evolve, to grow, to master not just attraction, but your identity as a man. And if that's you, then you're in the right place. Now here's what I want you to do. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's the one fear that's held you back the most when approaching a woman? Let's break it down together. No shame, no judgment, just real talk. Because when one man speaks his truth, it gives permission for hundreds more to rise. And if this video hit you in the gut, if it lit something up in you, if it reminded you of the power you've been sitting on for too long, share it. Send it to a brother who needs to hear it. Because together, we can shift the way men move in the world. Tap that like button if you got value. Subscribe if you're ready to become the kind of man women don't just want, but respect. And remember, seduction isn't about pretending, it's about revealing. Stop hiding, start leading. I'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and always, always lead with purpose.